Good morning, Suzanne.
Good morning, Deborah Leanne.
I feel
It's
like we
good,
should.
good.
Oh, sweet. Um, I this is well, first of all, we're recording in the throes of the super blue moon, which doesn't allow me to get much sleep. I just lay there at nighttime and just absorb all. I mean, the whole bedroom feels like it's lit up, like I'm in some kind of a special, I don't know, airship. So, what we're going to talk about today, let's introduce the topic because the super blue moon can take me completely sideways or upwards or wherever. Um, we're going in the direction of the city of divine will. The gift is resolve. And I, for some reason, have the hardest time coming up with a shadow because it is something I live with.
Exhaustion.
Exhaustion. So to get to exhaust, and I like the way that he ties the concepts together because they kind of sound randomly, like how do they fit?
Oh, you're talking about Richard Rudd.
Yeah, how do you go from exhaustion to divine will? And then resolve to me almost feels like you're adding to the exhaustion because to me it feels like, oh, I'm making a resolution, I have to do it this way, and it's not. I know that's not the way he defines it. So let's play with these terms a little, shall we?
Okay.
So,
Okay.
starting with exhaustion, this is very funny because I'm doing a series of workshops right now on the regenerative and resilient leader. And
Nice.
because we've talked about energy efficiency,
Yep.
sustainable productivity, you know, and as
This
opposed,
is the key for it.
it, I laughed out loud when I saw that. So, because today is also the day I'm doing my first workshop. So, the fascinating thing to me is how life conspires to pull us all back around and go, you're in the right place, babe.
Yeah.
So, exhaustion is something that I don't even think we need to spend a lot of time because everybody understands it. I do want to introduce the concept, though, of I mean, we understand physical and even emotional exhaustion was something that I didn't understand until a few years ago. But spiritual exhaustion is um, Richard Rudd mentions it in his 64 Ways, but I think that is something that many of the people on this spiritual path or that are feeling like their consciousness is um, evoluting very quickly, they're exhausted.
Yeah.
Do you want to speak to that?
Well, I think that when you're a seeker and you are looking at different states of beingness, and it's not in the physical realm yet, you're doing your work in other places and time, and um, it can feel very exhausting. Um, I think that's when I get back in my body and just spend time there cultivating stuff here, whether it be a
Well,
garden
I,
or, you know, just
yeah.
not focus my energy so much on that. I think this is what we're getting to study, is that it's just all about balance in all aspects of our life. But it's really governed, underlying everything, it's governed by the divine. So I think that when we come back to that resolve thing, that you're thinking like you have to come to some resolve. The resolve is just your life propelling forward in the direction that it's designed to naturally.
So it's a relaxing into resolve
Yes,
versus
right,
pushing yourself into resolve. And
right.
I think that was the thing that the exhaustion thing, like I used to tell the story of my life in the chapters of, I was such a brain that went through life and that was my guidance system. And then, after getting married and having children, I was like, oh my gosh, there's this whole center of love that's just pouring out of me. Like, what is this? And
Yeah,
then I went through the spiritual seeking where I was reading every book and taking
yeah,
every course and going to every retreat, which is exhausting. And that was one of the things he talks about is many people go in many different directions at the same time.
Right.
He said,
That
pick a
was
path and
that was me for sure.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and do the deep dive because
Right.
that's the exhausting way versus I'm going to have the resolve to I'm going to go deep in Buddhism or Taoism or
Yes.
Gene Keys mysticism or whatever. But he says, pick one. Doesn't have to be Gene Keys. So then I ended up in the total focus on the body and the energetics of somatic wisdom and realizing how unembodied I was. I was like, why did it take me till my 40s and 50s to figure out that I have a body? So, so to talk about out of balance, because I
Yeah.
was like spiritually over here and emotionally over here. And so that's a hard one to drop to. And I think the thing that with resolve is I need to resolve a lot of times just to slow down.
Well, the beauty of it, and I love how he expresses it, it's the art of doing nothing. How many times are we so mesmerized by like, okay, I'm going to go for a walk, but do we just go for a walk just for the pure pleasure of it, or oh, I've got to meet my steps this day, right? So that's a totally different experience.
I know. John has reminded me on many occasions, we're not on a race. I was like, we're not? I'm like, yeah, but I'm really wanting to get my miles per hour higher on my, my steps per hour
Mm,
or whatever it is that it measures on my phone. And he's
yeah.
like, this isn't a race. This isn't a race. We're not just
And
and anyway, that slowing down thing is not easy for many of us who were taught that if we actually got our love and our visibility, our credibility, our place in the world, our belongingness by doing a lot.
by doing lots, right? And what I love about this is that um, he says, true resolve is not possible unless you know how to relax. And talk about somatic. I mean, how how do we train ourselves? And and this is what's really interesting when we think about the vagus nerve and being able to allow our bodies to fully relax.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been I think I that was the thing that I ended up really trying to train myself in is how can I just okay be with what is right now? How can I just literally surrender and allow myself to just relax in the now moment, breathe into that space, feel it expand, and not feel pressure to do anything outside myself. Just
And you know what? That's when I have my most divine connecting moments. And it doesn't even have to be thoughts coming through. It's not even like I'm receiving that. It's more that I feel that interconnectedness. Like it's like I see the light patterns on the wall from the sunlight through the trees. And I'm like, I feel like they're talking to me. Like I feel like I'm part of everything.
yeah.
And
That's when you start
you
noticing
can't
the
get
really
there. I'm sorry, what?
well, that's when you start noticing the little kind of winks,
Yeah.
whether it's a bird call that you hear or like you start becoming really conscious in that present moment of the things that are happening around you. And that those are the little gems.
Oh my
I was having all
gosh.
kinds of synchronicities happen recently, even with this is funny. And somebody could say, well, it's just your light switch. But there's one bulb in my bathroom, and I always notice when I'm thinking about something, the bulb flashes out. And then I acknowledge it and I catch myself what I was thinking. As soon as I acknowledge it and see it, the bulb flashes back on.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like
I
playing,
understand that.
playing this
I
game with the
my
universe.
electrical engineer guy probably would have an answer for it.
I know. I know.
But but
Yeah.
I know that we've done that with technology.
Yeah.
I know that we've done that when we've like messed up our internet connection because the energy was so palpable of the whatever was being exchanged And people are always like, oh, it's just a something. I'm like, don't, I don't, you can explain it if you want. I really don't like to have an explanation. I just like to go, oh, look what happened. Hmm.
Yeah, just witness it.
And that's another resolve. Like, I don't have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Can I just allow it to be?
Yeah.
So I don't want to run out of time before we get to the divine will part, which is
Yeah.
huge because it is one of the seven sacred seals, which means it's here to totally heal humanity. And this
Hmm.
particular one is to help us heal fear. And I think I can see how that ties back to exhaustion because we try to keep moving, doing, learning, being so active that we can't stop and feel because that's when we talked about this a few weeks ago. When you turn inward, there's a lot of pain.
Yeah. And then this, the wound of it is repression.
Repression,
Hmm.
that makes total sense.
And
And
it's dealing with the subtle body. The subtle body is the physical. And the prime teaching of it is we yield to the will of the whole.
mm,
And so we're really, as it's kind of like we do our individual work, but then when we realize we're all connected, and it's like, oh, you kind of dissolve back into it.
yeah, and that's that. My ego, my needs, my I need this. I need to feed my mind. I need to feed my body. I mean, it's the very I need. And it's not necessarily what's the highest and the best for everything in this moment. And it might be to maybe stay and meditate another 5 minutes. It might be to sit and enjoy the sunlight for another 5 minutes, especially today. I'm going to get out while it's only in the 70s. Woohoo.
Yeah.
So, what the divine will teaches me also is it really another one of those spiritual states that if we allow ourselves to visit it, it's it feels healing. It's like a balm to my system,
Yeah.
which I think has to make a difference with others. One of the things he said, which I loved in his recording, was Richard mentions that when you meet somebody, and especially I do this when I'm out in public now, that's frantic and has their, I got to be, and the kids got to get to school, and then I just practice like grounding my energy and being this warm light. I don't have to say anything, I don't have to do anything, but it's like I don't have to be, oh my gosh, I feel for her, but I'm not going to take that on. I'm going to feel this. And immediately you can see the transformation in the other person. They just are like, oh,
Oh,
I love your garden
salt,
or whatever.
salt lamp. Oh,
Yeah. Oh, you are a salt lamp. You have always been a salt lamp in my life. Thank you for that.
well, and what's really cool is that when we hit that state of surrender, that is that complete physical relaxation. And when we're in that state, every physical molecule is is in optimal frequency. It's functioning properly,
Mm-hmm.
doing its thing because it's not forcing anything.
Yeah. And
Did we freeze the
that's
screen?
that relax. No, it's just the relaxing, right? We've slowed down. And I know
Right.
when I center with each of my clients before each of our coaching sessions or trainings, it centers me. They think I'm doing it for them. Okay.
So
All right, we did. And now we lost you.
there was, yeah. I was like, oh, the energy just popped out. So that's
All
all
righty.
good.
Well, we're talking about
We're
slowing down and being salt lamps for each other, and but most importantly, for us to be able to be with what is that be with what is thing. I would like to, before we
and
close, is I would really like to talk about. what would be a future way for us to be even more in service in the mornings like this? I mean, I we could offer like what oils we're playing with this particular gene key. We could talk about what messages we're getting from angelic beings. We could draw, some wisdom cards. Um, I and I feel like we're just touching on this immense body of wisdom each week. But is there something in particular that we could do to bring forward for people? So I want to just put that question out there. If there's another way that we can deepen into this material on a way that is in service to you, then please let us know. Any other invitation from you, my darling?
Yeah, not be so serious about it, but yeah.
Well, then there's that. Uh,
Spirituality and seriousness. Like, I think it's about playing with what we got while we're here, you know? And
yeah.
so it is a journey. And some of it is really, I this weekend, I went to this event and one of the ladies goes, "We do hard things." I've heard that quote like passed around, we do hard things. And then I also think we do hard things, and yes, it can still be light. We can still transform it in a way that doesn't have to be dense and hard, but we move through it, and we can move through it with ease and grace.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's my
And,
2 cents worth.
there's something about we cleaned the guest bedroom and guest bath last week because we were anticipating some guests over the weekend while we were away at the river. So it was like one more thing to get done before we left town. But when we came back, the guests didn't end up staying here. We walked in, I go, oh my
Oh,
God, this feels so good. And the bathroom is so clean and it's sparkling and it makes me, so I've been on a, like, what else
mm,
can I get rid of? And that was the other thing is the exhaustion, I think, sometimes comes from too much stuff. Too much
yeah,
stuff, too much stuff in my belly, too much stuff in the house,
yeah.
too much, and so,
So it's cleaning house in and out.
yeah,
It's really, again, that energy efficiency one-on-one. Cut commitments.
yeah,
Take your time. You don't have to, be scattered, your energy scattered all over the place. So really listening to what your soul has to say, and what feeds it and fulfills it.
yeah.
What like lights you up, as opposed to feeling like you've got to do things for everybody.
Yeah, and I have a quick question. I know I wanted to finish by now, but I wanted to ask you between energy efficiency, because I'm thinking about this exhaustion thing, sustainable productivity, and regeneration, how do you see the differences? Because they really are nuanced. I mean, there's degrees of how much to me, regeneration is more long term, more serving, more in the collective thing versus energy efficiency. I'm just going to save this much energy, but that really doesn't mean I'm not still polluting or not still making a mess or
Right. Energy efficiency, I think as we get to learn what works best for us, I think we're all uniquely designed. And so really understanding how to navigate.
mm,
I think most people, are they really aware of what works best in their system?
mm-hmm.
That's one. That's a big one, because I used to want to try to perform like someone else, and it was
Yeah,
like it. I I hit exhaustion, like my body, adrenal fatigue, everything else, because I was trying to behave like somebody else who might be a manifester, who's just like that's their MO. And so really getting to know ourselves, that's energy efficiency number one. Sustainability, I just think of following natural cycles,
okay,
and so it's cycle stuff. And when I think of regeneration, it's new growth, it's new ways of being.
right. So it's beyond it's beyond the energy efficiency and the sustainability, but it is planting for the future. It
Yeah.
is okay, because that's kind of the direction I'm wanting to play with. I've been using the word energy efficiency lately to talk about my own energy. But I'm leaning towards the regenerative because it feels better, and it also feels like it's the resolve. It's like the more I am allowing, I am, supporting the future by being me in a way that's I love about that, about the exhaustion of trying to be someone else.
Well, and it's when Richard, points out divine mind, divine heart, and divine will all are working together. But literally, what it's happening is divine mind in action through you. That's the citic state. The it's the direct manifestation of divine will moving through each one.
Through. Okay, so it's not like sitting and doing nothing, because that's one thing he was very clear about. It is it is being your essence, your unique genius in service to the collective. Yeah. Okay. That's a perfect place to wrap up. So anyway, any questions, anybody? Let us know. Any ways that we can deepen into this material that would serve you better, that would be helpful. And until our next time, Suzanne, do you want to close with anything? Ah, love and peace. Peace out, everybody. Take care.